Hello, Auntie. Oh, darling, is that you? You got so big already. Yeah. Have you tried exercising? You know, the thing we do, Zumba and like. Well, oh darling, I know. How about you cut all the carbs? Don't eat rice, don't eat those pasta, that bread that you used to love. Don't eat them. I think you should also take your advice, Auntie. What did you say? You little... Hello, beautiful minds! Welcome to my channel. I am Saika, and today I'd like to share with you my thoughts on why advice from other people usually don't work. So I was chubby and at one point obese for most of my life. It wasn't until recently that I picked up the dumbbells, put on some workout shoes, and did some workouts. Throughout my 20 or so years of being fat, however, I've had several people in my life, the closest ones too, who had deliberately called me out or gave me advice on how I should shed the pounds by doing steps 1 and 2 and so and so. Yet this kind of approach never worked for me, and I've heard a lot of people as well. So today I'm going to be sharing to you guys why that is, and sometimes why giving advice actually just ends up worsening their situation. Without further ado, let's get into it. Whenever someone would give me unsolicited advice on how I could lose the weight, it usually just ends up making me feel shameful and guilty. Because more or less, I already know the problem. I knew I was fat, but more so, I knew why I was fat. Emphasis on the why. And that's because of my food addiction, of my uncontrollable urges, and the like. More or less, fat people know why they're fat. And someone blatantly calling me out or giving me advice during a time I didn't ask for one just ultimately would make me more shameful and guilty. It honestly just ends up increasing my self-loathing as well as my self-pity. Because of the shame, the guilt, the self-pity, the self-hate, it usually will bear 3 different sorts of reactions depending on what kind of person you are, but sometimes you can also manifest all 3 depending on the situation or depending on the severity and whatnot. First is that the fat person you're giving advice to, or they or whoever, or someone like me, would end up freezing up. Because deep down, we already know our problem, why we're fat and the like. Other people's advice just end up falling on deaf ears. I can definitely attest to that because when someone would give me advice, it would just go in one ear and leave the other. I try to forget about it because of how it usually ends up making me feel. So in a way, I try to freeze myself up and try to not listen to other people's advice so that it also lessens the shame and guilt I feel inside. Second, it makes us want to rebel or go against what you're saying. Now, I do this a lot. So it's a sign of outright defensiveness and defiance. I think it's also because more or less when you're still fat and you're not willing to change and you're still denying the detrimental effects of your weight to your health, I think it's a very natural reaction to also be defiant about other people's advice on how you can lose the weight. It's a way of coping, and I definitely did that as well. I rebelled and tried to justify why I'm okay with my weight, why it's fine, why it's not connected to all these health issues and the like. I also rebelled, especially when the person giving me advice is someone who is also fat or at least unhealthy. I think it's just the hypocrisy of it all that they should also take the advice that they're trying to give me, because you're clearly not the credible person to be giving me that kind of advice if you're not practicing what you're also saying. So it definitely makes me more mad. It makes me want to go against what you just said. Finally, the third effect would be aggravation. Because of the high emotions, or at least negative emotions that you get from being given unsolicited advice, it would just usually end up making me want to eat more and overeat to bury those emotions. So it would just fuel the cycle of overeating, of emotional eating, and it would solve zero problems. For a lot of fat people or a lot of people struggling with their weight, food is like a comfort. And so if we feel anything negative or if we feel anything bad or feel bad about ourselves, we'll just go to food. Of course, these aren't other people's fault, especially if they try to do it out of good faith. It's just really hard to tell how one's good intentions may affect another's reaction. So how do we go about helping these people we would want to extend our help towards, especially the people we love or care about? So this is a very hard question. I had to think about this a lot because it's different for everybody, but I'm just going to share what would have worked for me and what could or might help also the people that you want to help or care for and love. First, practice what you preach. There's nothing more ironic than your fat aunt telling you to do these kinds of exercises, to do these diets and the like. What worked for me was seeing my dad and sister who are relatively healthy and do regular exercise every day. They never forced their practices on me or gave me daily advice on what I should do, but if they did occasionally give their 2 cents on what diet or exercise I could do, I would actually listen because I could see it worked for them and they really were doing the work in order to achieve the physique that they were in. So I could really see and observe that they were dieting, that they were exercising, and in a way, because I keep on seeing it every day, it also slowly encouraged me to do the same. So it's really inspiring by doing. They weren't being pretentious at all and they were living role models for me. And even though I was very stubborn at the start, seeing them every day would encourage me and push me slowly to also try to do what they are doing. Next, don't tell us a step-by-step regimen, just suggest and suggest kindly. I think it never works if you just straight up give a plan to someone and say, okay, do step 1, 2, and 3. This is how you should do it. Be strict about it, follow it to a T. Never do that. It's different for everyone, and what might be easy for you might be so hard for a different person. So just suggest. All you can do is suggest. It might be nothing for you, but for someone, especially someone who's still adamant about exercising and doing a whole lifestyle change, it might be quite overwhelming for them already, and it might impede them from actually following through with this new lifestyle change. So just suggest instead of being pushy about what you think is right and what do you think that they should be following. And if they turn it down, take it kindly. Again, don't try to push your point. If they don't want to, don't force it on them. Give them time to think about it and let them decide what they see fit for themselves. You're there to suggest and assist if needed, but you're not there to hold their hand and drag them along the path you think is right for them. Finally, if nothing works and you've tried, let it be. There's no changing another person's mindset and lifestyle if they themselves are not ready to do so. It's one thing if you care and they sincerely want to change or are trying to change at least, and it's another if you're the only one caring and they don't want to at all. I know this because at the start I was so adamant, and no matter how much people cared, and I know they were doing it because they loved me, I still didn't do anything. I still found their point moot, and yeah, I never did anything up until I was the one asking questions and asking for their advice. So what you can do if they don't want to change is just live your life, lead by example, and when they're ready to actually make those first steps, open your arms to them, guide them slowly, don't fright them. Let them flourish on their own, and if they need you and if they want to ask for help, give them that help. Sometimes you just really need them to find their own way and fall if need be, and once they're ready to stand and take that first step, then be ready to be at their side. Advice from other people usually don't work if the person being given advice to is simply not ready to take those suggestions to heart. It's hard both ways to be at the receiving and giving end. It's hard to receive unsolicited advice because it might be overwhelming, but at the same time, if you're the one giving advice, it might be frustrating because you might see that they need help, but they end up not wanting it or not pushing through, and you just get frustrated as to why they're not taking care of themselves because you love and care for these people. At the end of the day, as a previous fat person in denial, you'll always take those comments or advices as fatphobic, hurtful, and bad for you, unless you yourself want to start the change to be or feel better for yourself. As for the ones who want to help these people around you, all you can ever do is hope that one day something will get passed through to this person that will make them want to change for the healthier or for the better. And when the time comes, just be ready to help and assist them. Everyone is different and everyone's journey starts at a different place. I just hope that wherever we are in our journeys, that we will always have people we can rely on, we can cry with, and who can be honest with us when it matters most. That's it for today's video. Thank you so much guys for watching. If you guys like this video, do give this a like, subscribe, and do comment your stories below. What advices had been given to you or said? How did you react? And how are you doing now? And let's start a conversation. Thank you so much guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Babush!